What's going on, everybody? This is me, your friend Flying Chimps XD, and I usually do not do tech review videos, but I recently got my hands on the 12 to 56 GB variant of the Xiaomi Pad 7, and I thought to myself, well, let's just do a gaming and benchmarking review of this tablet. So in today's video, you guys are gonna see a little bit of benchmarking data as well as a few games data that I play on this tablet. You guys are gonna see the FPS and everything, and in today's video, you guys will be able to make a little bit of a judgment on whether or not if you should buy this tablet. And so stick around till the end to find out how good this tablet actually performs for the price being, and let's just get started with today's video without wasting any further time. So before I show you guys the benchmark and game FPS data, let's just quickly go over the specs, which should be on your screen right now. And for me, the biggest highlight would probably be the processor itself. We could have gotten a better processor, but at the same time, the processor that this tab comes with is the Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 3, which is pretty much a clocked down version of the Snapdragon 8s Gen 3. And this processor is clocked at 2.8 GHz, and the GPU inside is Adreno 732, which is pretty good. And my variant has 12 GB RAM and 256 GB of internal storage, and this variant actually is a UFS 4.0 variant rather than the UFS 3.1 variant, which is the 128 GB or the base variant of this tablet. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's now first get started with our first benchmark, which is definitely going to be the Antutu benchmark. And inside here in the Antutu benchmark, you guys will be able to see that the scores are around 1.415 mil, which is like 1.4 mil, I would say. So yeah, and this is the 256 GB variant, which basically means it will get a little bit of boost from the UFS 4.2 storage too. So yes, and in here, as you guys can see, that the CPU scores around 369k. 370k is usually the score of Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 3 on any other device. So yeah, pretty good. The GPU scores is also around 483, so around 480k should be around what the 732 should score. So yeah, pretty much good. And then the next score is here. This is where the boost mainly happens from the base variant. It's like the UFS 4.0 storage, and here, as you guys can see, the RAM bandwidth, latency, the sequential read and writes, everything is right there. You guys can take a look at that. And the UI scores around 240k. So that was good for the Antutu benchmark itself. We saw a pretty good score, and the performance was pretty much on par with what it should be. But right now we move on to the next benchmarking application, which is the GeekBench 6, and inside here we can see that the single core score is around 1812 and the multi-core is around 4712. And considering that the Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 3 is powering this thing, so I would say it is pretty much on par with what it should be. And yeah, a little comparison here, though I'm not really sure how accurate these are. Anyways, we're gonna move on to the GPU now, and the GPU is a OpenCL score, not the Vulkan one. I did the Vulkan one later on too, but here is the OpenCL, which is around 7906, which is around 8000, and again, good. Pretty good for the Adreno 732 inside here. But right now, here is the Vulkan one, and in here we can see that the GPU scores around 9240, which I'm not really sure how good it should be, but for the comparison, you guys can see it is actually a little bit better than the 8 Gen 2 that is inside the Galaxy Z Fold 5. So that's pretty good in my opinion. And so we move on to the next benchmarking application, which is the 3D Mark, and it scored around 3012 in Wildlife Extreme. As you guys can see, it's saying like 62% better score than all devices. I don't really know. Anyways, and we also ran the Wildlife normal one, and as you guys can see, it is absolutely maxed out. But I'm also gonna show you guys the actual score that it did, which is around 11,126, which is very good for the 732 and this tablet itself. It is actually higher than the iPad 10 Gen, I think so. After which we also ran a Wildlife Extreme stress test, a 20-minute test, and here are the results. And in here we can see that the highest loop score was 3043 and the lowest was 2814, but the graph is pretty straightforward, which basically mean it did not really lose much of a performance itself. And we also saw the stability is around 92.5. You guys can also see that. And the performance range, you guys can see it's like the section where it was like dipping down and everything. And it also lost around 10% charge, actually 11% charge, and went about 8 degrees up. But at the same time, this was a stress test, so I would say it's pretty good results. And after this, we did the final benchmarking, which was done with the app called CPU throttling test. And inside this app, we can see that after running at around 10 minutes of stress test, it throttled down to 92% of his max performance, which is pretty good. And as you guys can also see that the graph is pretty green, which means the tablet doesn't really throttles, and it's a good thing. So we can conclude that the tab actually performs pretty well even under the stress test, and it was like 92 for both the GPU and CPU is pretty good. And also the tab did actually get a little warm around the back, but then again this is a metal unibody we're talking about, so it would get warm. And if you're somebody who is concerned about the actual temperature of this tablet, it's not really that much, but if you still want to cool it down, you can just buy those like 1200 rupees MagSafe cooler with that those attachment stickers and everything, slap that on and then just slap the cooler on your tablet and it should cool it down. Or also you can just like sit in front of a table fan and it should do the same thing. And now here comes the gaming benchmarks. So yeah, here we will be able to see all the gaming settings, like the games that we're gonna play, the settings that we're gonna play it on, and as well as what the FPS are gonna be. So let's start with the first game, which is gonna be Wuthering Waves. And in here, as you guys can see, everything is set to the high, and in this game we got an average around 45 to 47, and the temperature never went above 34. But one thing that I should note out is that Wuthering Waves in particular has a bit of an optimization issue. So because of that reason, if you guys are gonna buy this tab to play this game, I would say set it on medium graphics settings with medium resolution and play it on 40 fps. It should run just fine. So now we move on to the next game, which is Genshin Impact. And inside here, as you guys can see, everything is set to the highest. And yes, after applying the settings, I restarted the game so that everything is applied properly, and then I recorded the video. So yeah, that's that. But in Genshin Impact, we got a very not so surprising 57.6 average, also taking into consideration that there were like 2 loading screens in the entire thing. And yes, this game, it runs pretty well even on the maximum settings, and the heat wasn't even like that bad. But at the same time, if you guys are gonna run this game for a long time, like 1 hour to like 2 hours on this tablet, it's definitely gonna heat up. But yeah, there is no like optimization issues here. GPU CPU utilization is pretty well, which is why the game runs on like almost 60 fps lock. And yes, if you guys are buying this tablet for Genshin Impact, you guys can definitely play on maximum settings, but my recommendation would definitely be to just play it on high resolution and then lower the textures and shadows a little bit. But yeah, this game can definitely run. And with that, we move on to the next game, and it is ZZZ. And here you guys can see everything is set to the max. But in ZZZ, there are definitely visible lag spikes and like micro stutters. And as you guys can see, even on the gameplay, when we are like tagging in a new character with their intro and with the wipeout screen, there are definite like micro stutters visible. They're like lag spikes of like 1 or 1.5 seconds. But at the same time, the game ran an average around 40 fps. So my opinion would be, if you guys are gonna play ZZ on this device, I would probably say to keep it on the medium resolution with lower textures, or maybe medium textures and low shadows. It should run fine with 40 fps lock, but we can definitely expect to see better optimization update with the newer updates of ZZ as well as HyperOS. So now we move on to the next game, which is Call of Duty Warzone. And in here, as you guys can see, the texture quality is only up to medium. That's the highest it can go to. The FPS is uncapped and the rest is set to high. I'm not really sure how the graphics actually works in Warzone, because I saw somewhere it's like the more you play, the better the graphics it gets, or something like that. Because I don't play, I'm not really sure. Anyways, so we are now gonna see the gameplay. And in the gameplay, as you guys can see, the average FPS is around 57 to 66, or I would say around 70 FPS. But in the data, as you guys can see, the max was around 120 FPS, but I'm pretty sure it was either around menus, or even if it was in game, it was around 1 or 2 frames, which I did not really see. So yes, this can definitely not run Call of Duty Warzone at around 120 FPS, but the average is around 60 FPS. And as you guys can also see from the data, it's like 64.3. So I would say 60 to 70 FPS average would be good. So if you guys are gonna play the game, I would say 60 fps lock and then like medium textures and anything. I'm not really sure about how Warzone's graphics works, because I'm not really familiar with it. I don't play Warzone. So yes, even if you are trying to play it on the higher settings with the medium texture, as you guys can see in the gameplay, it is capable of running this game. So yes, and yes, also another thing is that this game definitely warms the tablet up a little bit more than any other game, but at the same time, having a cooler like a Peltier cooler, those stick on MagSafe cooler, it can definitely help. And so with that, we can conclude that it can definitely run Warzone. And if you are in the market to buy this tablet for Warzone specifically, I would say you can definitely run Warzone and play and have a fun time in it. Anyways, now we move on to the next game, which probably is gonna be that game that everybody is waiting for, and it is none other than BGMI. But actually, before showing you guys the gameplay itself, I would like to show you guys something, and that is the blurring issue, the infamous blurring issue. Now if you look at the little character right here, you can also see that there is like jagged edges around him, as well as the character, our main character right here, you can see there is like jagged edges, the anti-aliasing less jagged edges. And this doesn't even actually get fixed even after anti-aliasing. If you look at her face, you will be able to spot that the face also looks very blurred. And also right here, as you guys can see, the texture does not look good. And why is that, you might ask? Basically, the game renders itself on a very lower resolution, like 720p hertz, and then it actually just projects that into this 3.2K screen, which is why that blurring issue actually exists. This is definitely an optimization issue with the current HyperOS update, and I'm pretty much sure that it will get fixed. And you can also see the fonts are absolutely jank. It's like very deep and it does not really look good. So yeah, that's that. And we can definitely hope for a optimization update that would actually fix this. But now let's just move on to the gameplay part itself. And as you guys can see in the gameplay, there are those jagged edges around the textures, and I also took a screenshot of the render resolution, which is 1072 into 720p, which is why there's this jagged edges and a bad texture problem. And yes, I think it would be fixed with further updates to both BGMI and HyperOS. But yeah, I also did a jump test right here, and in the jump test you guys will be able to see that the FPS, it went down up to was 78 and then gained back to 84, and upon entering the mode it was around 70 FPS, which I saw was lowest, but it quickly gained back to 84 and then around 88, 89. So I would say pretty much above 85 or around 80 plus FPS even when you are landing in the mode. And there were like 30 people in the mode back then. And when I went down into this lower part of the mode, you guys can also see there's like 88, 87 FPS, and on the FPS data it's also seen it's like 87.1 was average, the minimum was 69 FPS, and the 5% lows were 74.6 FPS, which is why less than 45% smoothness was 100%. And it is a very very good thing. The FPS did not really stutter that much. I did not see any big visual stutter or big visual lag, anything like that. The only issue that I have with this tablet right now, or BGMI on this tablet right now, is the texture issue, but it will definitely grow on you if you like play a few more matches. Like if you play every day, I don't really think you will be able to see those textures issues anymore, because your eyes will definitely adapt to it. But yeah, if you guys are buying this tablet for BGMI specifically, you can definitely run BGMI, and it runs very smooth at around 85 plus FPS. And I think the texture issue will also be resolved with like further HyperOS update as well as BGMI update. Not really sure how fast that is gonna happen, but it will definitely happen at some point. So yes, rest assured, you guys can definitely buy this tablet for BGMI. And now we move on to the last game that we tested on this tablet, and the last game is our good old Call of Duty Mobile. And in here we set the graphics quality to low and the frame rate to ultra, which basically means 90 FPS on low. And now I also tested it with highest possible settings with 60 FPS, but I forgot to actually screenshot the data before I actually deleted the app. So yes, my bad on that part, but I'm gonna show you guys the 90 FPS gameplay right here. And even in the gameplay, you guys can see this is probably the smoothest out of the bunch. This is like running at very much locked 90, and there were no micro stutters or anything like that. And I did expect this from Call of Duty, considering how optimized it is for even the lower end devices. And this is like 7 plus Gen 3, so obviously it would run this fine. And in the frame graph, you guys can also see the entire game ran very smooth. There were two dips, which is the 0 FPS minimum, and those were loading screens, nothing else. The entire game was very very smooth. The average FPS was around 88.6, and the entire game felt very smooth to play as well as to look at. And I also ran the game on the maximum settings. I think it was like max with 60 fps, and the game still ran fine. I do not have the screenshot to actually show you guys, but if I did I would show you. But the last time I remember, it was like average was around 59.4 and the game was running on 60 fps, which was again very good results, and I do expect this from Call of Duty. And yes, if you guys are gonna buy this tablet especially for Call of Duty, you guys are gonna definitely get a very good experience. And yes, that should conclude the entire gaming test too. And with that done, I think it's time that we draw a conclusion, because we saw that it performed pretty well in both the synthetic benchmarks as well as gaming benchmark. Yeah, there were definite optimization issues with both Wuthering Waves as well as ZZZ, but there are some games which ran very good, which includes Call of Duty as well as Genshin Impact, which is a pretty heavy game if you ask me, and our BGMI too. So if you guys are in the market for a tablet for power usage purposes, whether you are gonna edit videos or like play games on it, this tablet should suffice that work scenario. But at the same time, I would definitely recommend you guys to go for the 12 to 56 variant over the 8128, just because this thing currently is around 29,999, which is like 30,000 on Amazon. And under 30,000 or around 30,000, this is one of those tablets that are gonna give you the most amount of performance, even if you compare it to something like those Moto Pad 60 as well as the Lenovo Xiaomi Pad, which is like rebranded as the Lenovo Idea Tab Pro here in India. And so my final verdict would be, if you are in the market for a tablet at around 30,000 rupees, I would definitely suggest you to go for this one over any other tablet, and definitely do try to get the 12 to 56 GB variant. If not, you can definitely try the 8128, but at the same time that does not have the UFS 4.0, and this one has a UFS 4.0, that one has a UFS 3.1. But at the same time, the issue should not be the storage itself, but at the same time, more storage as well as faster storage is always welcome. So yeah, with that, I think it's time to conclude the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you are here till now, please make sure to like the video. If you do not like it or have any kind of questions, make sure to comment down below. And if you guys want me to test any other games or any other software on this device, let me know in the comments down below. And that's it for today's video. This is me, your friend Flying Team 6D, signing out. Thank you so much for watching. Tata, bye bye, take care of yourself. See you guys in the next video.